A teenage girl sits in a small room. She cannot go outside. She cannot make noise. She cannot see her friends. She has been hiding for 2 years. But she has a pen, and she has a diary, and she writes, "I want to go on living even after my death." She writes. Her name is Anne Frank. She's 15 years old, and in a few months, she will be dead. But her wish will come true. 80 years later, her words are still alive. Her diary has sold over 30 million copies. Her story has touched hundreds of millions of people. This is the story of what happened to Anne Frank and her family. Where they hid, how they were caught, what happened in the camps, and how one father turned unimaginable loss into an eternal legacy. The Frank family came from Germany. They were Jewish, but they considered themselves German first. They spoke German. They celebrated German holidays. They loved their country. Otto Frank, the father, was born in 1889. He fought for Germany in World War I. He was proud to serve his country. He married Edith Hollander in 1925. They had 2 daughters. Margot was born in 1926. Anne was born on June 12, 1929. Life was good. The family was comfortable and happy. Then Hitler came to power in 1933. Everything changed. The Nazis hated Jews. They passed laws against them. Jewish children could not go to school with other children. Jewish businesses were attacked. Jewish families were threatened. Otto Frank understood what was happening. He saw that things would get worse, much worse. He decided to leave Germany. In 1933, the Frank family moved to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. They started a new life. Otto built a business. The girls learned Dutch. They made friends. They were safe. For 7 years, life was good again. Then the Nazis invaded. On May 10, 1940, German soldiers marched into the Netherlands. The country fell in just 5 days. Suddenly, the Frank family was trapped. The same nightmare they had escaped in Germany had followed them. The Nazis introduced anti-Jewish laws immediately. Jews had to wear yellow stars on their clothes. Jewish children were expelled from regular schools. Jews could not go to parks, theaters, or swimming pools. Anne was 11 years old. She watched her world shrink day by day. She could not ride her bicycle anymore. She could not visit her Christian friends. She could not do the things that other children did. And then came the deportations. In 1942, the Nazis began sending Dutch Jews to concentration camps in the East. Everyone knew what this meant. People who were deported did not come back. When Margot received a notice to report for deportation on July 5, 1942, the Frank family knew they had to hide. Otto had been preparing for this moment. For months, he had been secretly building a hiding place in the back of his office building. Behind a movable bookcase, there were small rooms where people could live. On July 6, 1942, the Frank family walked to their hiding place. They wore all their clothes in layers because carrying suitcases would look suspicious. They climbed the stairs. They stepped through the bookcase. They entered the secret annex. They would not leave for over 2 years. Life in hiding was hard. 8 people lived in the annex, the 4 Franks, another family called the Van Pels, a father, mother, and teenage son named Peter, and later a dentist named Fritz Pfeffer. 8 people in a few small rooms. For 2 years, they could not make any noise during the day. Workers were in the building below. Any sound could give them away. They could not look out the windows. Someone might see them. They could not go outside. Not once. Not for 2 years. They lived in constant fear. Every footstep on the stairs could be the police. Every knock on the door could be the end. Anne struggled. She was a social girl, energetic, talkative, full of life. Being trapped in a few rooms was torture for her. She argued with her mother. She clashed with the other residents. She felt alone and misunderstood. But she had her diary. Anne had received the diary for her 13th birthday, just weeks before going into hiding. She named it Kitty and wrote in it almost every day. She wrote about the boredom of hiding. She wrote about her dreams for the future. She wrote about falling in love with Peter, the teenage boy in the Annex. She wrote about wanting to be a writer someday. She wrote about wanting to make a difference in the world. And she wrote about hope. Even in that dark hiding place, even knowing that people wanted to kill her, she found reasons to hope. "I still believe that people are really good at heart," she wrote. Those words would become famous around the world. But Anne would never know it. On August 4th, 1944, the secret annex was discovered. We still do not know who betrayed them. Historians have investigated for decades. The mystery remains. What we know is that Nazi police arrived that morning. They found the bookcase. They found the hidden rooms. They found the 8 people inside. Everyone was arrested. Anne's diary pages were thrown on the floor. A woman named Miep Gaes had helped the family survive in hiding. After the police left, she went back to the annex. She gathered Anne's diary pages and hid them in her desk. She planned to give them back to Anne after the war. The 8 prisoners were sent to Westerbork, a transit camp in the Netherlands. Then, on September 3, 1944, they were loaded onto a train. It was the last train from Westerbork to Auschwitz. Over 1,000 people were packed into cattle cars. The journey took 3 days. When they arrived at Auschwitz, the selection began. Nazi doctors decided who would live and who would die. Those who could work went to one side. Those who could not went to the gas chambers. The Frank family was separated. Otto went to the men's camp. Edith, Margot, and Anne went to the women's camp. It was the last time Otto ever saw his daughters. The next months were hell. Anne, Margot, and Edith lived in Auschwitz-Birkenau. They slept in crowded barracks with hundreds of other women. They worked long hours. They received almost no food. Edith grew weaker every day. She gave her food rations to her daughters. She was determined that they would survive, even if she did not. In late October 1944, there was another selection. Anne and Margot were chosen to be transferred to Bergen-Belsen, a camp in Germany. Edith was not selected. She stayed behind. The sisters were taken away. They never saw their mother again. Edith Frank died on January 6, 1945. She starved to death. She was 44 years old. The Soviets liberated Auschwitz 20 days later. If she had held on just 3 more weeks, she might have survived. Anne and Margot arrived at Bergen-Belsen in early November. The camp was a nightmare. Overcrowded, no food, no clean water, disease everywhere. Bergen-Belsen was not a death camp with gas chambers, but people died anyway. They died of starvation. They died of typhus. They died of neglect. The winter of 1944 to 45 was brutally cold. Anne and Margot huddled together for warmth. Both girls got sick with typhus. Margot died first. She was so weak that she fell from her bunk. The fall killed her. She was 18 years old. Anne died a few days later, probably in late February or early March 1945. She was 15 years old. British soldiers liberated Bergen-Belsen on April 15, 1945, just weeks after Anne died. If she had survived a little longer, she would have been free. Of the 8 people who hid in the secret annex, 7 died. Only 1 survived. Otto Frank. After being separated from his family at Auschwitz, Otto was put to work in the men's camp. He was 55 years old. Most men his age did not survive. But Otto was strong, and he had something to live for. He believed his family was still alive. He believed he would see them again. In January 1945, the Soviets approached Auschwitz. The Nazis evacuated most prisoners on death marches. Thousands died on the frozen roads. Otto was too sick to march. He was left behind in the camp hospital. On January 27, 1945, Soviet soldiers liberated Auschwitz. Otto Frank was free. But where was his family? For months, Otto searched. He traveled across Europe. He checked lists of survivors. He asked everyone he met. First, he learned about Edith. Someone told him his wife had died in January. Otto was devastated. But maybe his daughters were alive. Maybe they had been transferred to another camp. Maybe they had been liberated too. He returned to Amsterdam in June 1945. Miep Gies took him into her home. Together, they searched for Anne and Margot. Week after week, Otto checked the survivor lists. Week after week, their names were not there. Finally, in July, a woman came forward. She had been in Bergen-Belsen with Anne and Margot. She had seen them die. Otto Frank was alone. His entire family was gone. In that moment of complete despair, Miep Gies gave Otto the diary. She had kept it hidden for almost a year. She had hoped to return it to Anne herself. Now she handed it to Otto. "Here is your daughter's legacy," she said. Otto began to read. He had known Anne kept a diary, but he had never read it. He had respected her privacy. Now he heard her voice again. He read her thoughts, her dreams, her fears, her hopes. He read about her love for Peter. He read about her fights with her mother. He read about her desire to become a writer. It was like she was speaking to him from beyond the grave. It broke his heart. And it gave him a reason to live. Otto decided the world needed to read Anne's diary. He typed it out. He edited it slightly. He removed some personal passages. But he kept Anne's voice. Finding a publisher was hard. Many said no. They said nobody wanted to read about the war anymore. They said a teenage girl's diary was not important enough. Otto did not give up. In 1947, the diary was published in Dutch. It sold well. Then it was translated into German. Then English. Then French, Spanish, Japanese, and dozens more languages. The diary became one of the most famous books in the world. Anne Frank became a symbol. Her face appeared on stamps and posters. Schools were named after her. Museums were built in her memory. The girl who wanted to be a writer became one of the most read authors in history. The girl who wanted to live on after her death got her wish. Otto Frank spent the rest of his life sharing Anne's message. He answered thousands of letters from readers. He gave speeches and interviews. He helped turn the secret Annex into a museum. He remarried in 1953. His new wife, Fritzi, was also a Holocaust survivor. She had lost her husband and son in the camps. Together, they built a new life. Otto died on August 19, 1980. He was 91 years old. He was the last survivor of the secret Annex. But Anne's story continued. Today, the Anne Frank House is one of the most visited museums in the world. Over 1 million people go there every year. They climb the stairs. They see the bookcase. They walk through the small rooms where 8 people hid for 2 years. They see the pictures Anne put on her wall. Movie stars and royalty. The same pictures that made a teenage girl smile in that dark place. And they understand, just a little bit, what was lost. Not just Anne. 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. Each one was a person. Each one had dreams and hopes and people who loved them. Anne's diary speaks for all of them. It reminds us that behind every number, there was a human being. Anne Frank wanted three things. She wanted to be a writer. She wanted to make a difference. She wanted to be remembered after her death. She got all three, just not the way she imagined. She was 15 when she died. She never saw the end of the war. She never knew her diary would be found. But her words changed the world. Her story has taught millions of people about the Holocaust. Her voice still speaks. 80 years later, in spite of everything, she wrote, "I still believe that people are really good at heart." That is Anne Frank's legacy. Hope in the darkness. Light in the shadow. A teenage girl's voice, echoing through history. And that is what happened to Anne Frank's family. Tragedy. Loss. And then, somehow, something beautiful.